Talks to secure a post-Brexit trade deal between the EU and the UK looks like it'll go right down to the wire. Negotiators have been holding meetings this week in London, but big differences still remain. Ireland's Prime Minister Micheál Martin has warned that a failure to reach an agreement will be ruinous for the UK. Shona Murray has been talking to the Irish Foreign Minister Simon Coveney about the implications of a no-deal Brexit for the island of Ireland. So let's go straight over to Brussels, where we can speak to her now. Good evening, Shona. What's Simon Coveney been saying to you?
Well, much like Micheál Martin, I suppose, Oliver, making the point that time is of the essence. But really, there's a feeling that there has to be a Brexit deal. There will be a Brexit deal because the cost of failure is just simply too high. And Simon Coveney made the point to me earlier today that really the question is now as to whether the UK wants to politically make that decision. Take a listen.
They're clearly leaving that decision to the very, very last minute, which is going to make for all sorts of challenges for the EU side in particular on ratification, if it is possible to do a deal. But look, I think it's a good sign this week that we're hearing very little from the two negotiating teams and the lead negotiators. It's essentially radio silence. And that is because these negotiations are being taken deadly seriously by both sides in an effort to try to move things forward. But my understanding is that, as of yet anyway, there certainly isn't any breakthrough on the two key sensitive issues around level playing field and fishing.
If there is an agreement, would you expect that there's a 2 to 3 month grace period, for example, for the new changes to be implemented? Because it's likely that things won't be ready by the 1st of January.
No, I don't think that's likely. I think that the law changes as regards to trade at the end of the year. The transition period ends, and so Britain is a third country and will be trading as a third country. Hopefully we'll be able to manage that new relationship on the basis of an agreement that can be done in the next week or so. But it's not really open to both sides in the absence of an agreement to simply extend the transition again. The UK have said they don't want that. Yes, they seem to be suggesting that they're looking for accommodation in terms of being given flexibility for a certain period of time to get things done. So I think those flexibilities are very difficult for the EU to actually facilitate. There may be specific areas where the EU agrees some flexibility around timelines. But in general, I think the message needs to go out to businesses and to traders that from the 1st of January, things change very fundamentally. Brexit really takes effect from that day. So even though Britain is now out of the European Union under the withdrawal treaty that took effect at the start of the year, the actual consequence of that, the regulatory consequence, the trading consequence, in some ways the political consequences of it, really take effect from the 1st of January. And I think anybody who thinks that the change is going to be pushed out for another 3 months or 6 months or 12 months because that change is difficult to accommodate, I think is being naive and isn't being briefed well.
Is it a prerequisite that the elements in the internal markets bill that deal with the Irish protocol, that they're revoked for any deal to be signed off?
Yes. Let me be very clear on that. And this isn't just Ireland saying it. It's Commissioner von der Leyen saying it. It's Michel Barnier saying it. It's the governments of every capital in the European Union saying it. There is no way that the EU will ratify a new agreement with the UK if they know that Britain is legislating to undermine and breach the previous agreement that's not even 12 months old. So we cannot have a situation where we sign a new future relationship agreement if we know that Britain is still proceeding with legislation to break international law and a treaty with the European Union that they signed less than 12 months ago. That's not going to happen. I have been one of the people who have been encouraging everybody not to focus on the internal market bill for now, but instead to focus on these negotiations to resolve the outstanding issues. Because I believe if we resolve the outstanding issues, the section of the internal market bill that is offensive in terms of Part 5, which has just been removed, by the way, by the House of Lords, but maybe put back in again by the House of Commons, I believe the issues in that bill will effectively become irrelevant and therefore may be removed quietly. And I think that's the way we deal with that. So let's resolve the outstanding issues first, make that element of the internal market bill irrelevant, and then I think the politics of this becomes a little bit easier. But of course, the opposite is also true. If we don't get a future relationship agreement, if we don't get a trade agreement, and if that legislation becomes law in Britain, well, then I think we're into the space of having no deal and the European Union taking the UK to court because of a breach of international law. You know, that is not a good way to start out on a new future relationship between the EU and the UK on any level for anybody. So I hope that the British government will come to its senses on this piece of legislation. Their own parliament is telling them that they need to rethink this, as is virtually every country in the world that has commented on it, and certainly every country in the European Union.
So a stark assessment there from the Irish Foreign Affairs Minister, Simon Coveney, making the point that a deal is there to be done, but that the UK has to make a political decision as to whether it wants it. The other part being, of course, that the systems, the new trading systems, because there will be new trading systems, they have to be in place by the 1st of January, and there will be no grace period, which I think it may be very difficult to hear if you're a business that trades into the EU single market quite frequently. And then the other point, the controversial Internal Markets Bill, the piece of the legislation that deals with the Irish Protocol, that breaches the Irish Protocol, that has to be revoked by the UK government in order for the EU to sign off on a deal. That's something that the UK government have said they won't be doing. So there's a really tight time frame, but a lot of road to go ahead over the next few days and weeks on Brexit. Oliver?
Thanks, Shona. Shona Murray joining us there from Brussels.